Just make sure everybody's all set up, ready to go. So we are still on chapter 3, I believe, if you have the book. Well, let me just back up. For those of you that are new, because there seems to be a lot of new faces, I'm getting a lot of feedback. For those of you that watch the replay, we are going through The Power of Now as a book study. Oh, thank you, Barbara. It's a lot. I'm ready to take it out. And so we are, let me see what chapter. I'm pretty sure this is chapter 3. In my version of the book, we're on chapter 3, page 62. We've just been learning a lot of things about the way that we look at our lives. And unfortunately, we haven't been really taught to approach life in a way that's going to help us to stop our suffering. And you know how we stay in these traps of negativity, not fully moving forward the way that we should. This book really explains a lot of how we can take the power and control back over our lives based on the things that we can do internally. And so we left off on page 62. And if you haven't read this book before, again, sometimes there's two voices. There's a voice that's asking Eckhart a question, and then he responds to that question. Hey, Soulful Step. So the question that this person asked him was, I don't see how I can be free now. As it happens, I am extremely unhappy with my life in the moment. And I'm sure that a lot of us can connect with that, right? We may be in our present circumstance, not where we want to be. And because we're not where we want to be or experiencing the things that we want to experience, we feel this underlying negativity or strife or various things, right, that just keep us from living in this present very optimally. So this person also said, it's a fact that I would be deluding myself if I tried to convince myself that all is well when it isn't. I want you all to pay attention to this particular lesson, because I think that when you hear a lot of people saying to you, especially if you are going through something really tough or have been through something really tough, and you hear somebody saying that it has to do with the way that you think and your mindset, and you're thinking, no, I really do feel pain. And then you have me or somebody else that maybe has been on the other side of things, like Eckhart has, telling you that try to get into a different mindset. And you're like, well, how can I if I'm not happy right now? If I'm not, literally the things that you may be experiencing are making you unhappy. I want you to listen to this lesson, because I don't believe that anybody is discounting the fact that we as humans sometimes experience some tough stuff. And especially those of you that are around my age and older, we've been through tough stuff and tough stuff and tough stuff, right? More than once. But I think that we still have to remember that the growth from that, so maybe not what happened to you, but the growth from that period is what you have control over. And so if you feel like your present moment is unhappy, or you feel like it's not liberating, meaning it's constricting, and you're not able to do the things that you want to do, sometimes we find that the hope of the future is what keeps us alive, right? That keeps us thinking, well, hopefully tomorrow can be better than what I'm experiencing today, and so forth and so on. Which I think is useful, because remember, we talked about clock time and we talked about psychological time. So I think hope for the future, planning for the future, all of that stuff. And he articulated as well that is clock time. But then there's also this thing called psychological time that's not real time. And hope and improvement, hoping for improvement in the future doesn't necessarily mean that you're in psychological time, unless you hope for a better future to where you don't even live in your present day, and you don't experience or do the things that you need to do in the present day for even the future to be what it is that you want it to be. So this person is saying that they can't convince themselves that all is well. They are not in the circumstance that they would like. The present moment is unhappy. And so the only thing that does keep them going is not to think in the now, like he is telling us to do in this book, but to go into the future. All right, so listen. Eckhart says, you think that your attention is in the present moment when it is actually taken completely up by time. Powerful. It seems simple, but it's powerful, because even if you feel like right now, the moment right that is only real and that you have to accept you're unhappy now, usually that unhappiness is not due to the now. That unhappiness is due to a judgment or a perception or that mental activity that we go through as we are a mental or slave to our mental processes. And so you're pulling some of the past, the judgments, the experiences into the now, which makes it unhappy. He didn't say this, maybe he did, but my question to you would be, okay, so if we are going by what we know, that we are spiritual beings experiencing a human experience, if we can understand that, and then we can understand that we're not to be a slave to our thoughts and our emotions, then if we can understand that, and then he's saying that you think that your attention is in the present when it's really not, it's taken up by time, right? It's either taken up by the future or the past. Then I think that I would also, how can I articulate it? I might have to come back to it. It's so deep. Right, Brad, you get it. You like, that's rich. I'll come back to what I'm trying to say, but because it's so powerful. It seems so simple, but it's not. Your time has not been in the present because here it is. Because the other thing that you have to do, so if the moment now is the only thing that's real, then in this moment, because you cannot change this moment now because it's already happening, then that means you approach this moment now from a place of acceptance. So if you've accepted this moment now, and let's just go into the future a little bit, clock time, that means more than likely the next moment, the next moment, the next moment, the next second, the half a second, whatever, is going to be the same as this now that we're in. And so if you've already experienced it, it doesn't make you happy, but you are able to accept it for what it is and focus on what it is that you can do in the now to make it better, then truly you're creating more unhappiness by continuing to pull the unhappiness in the future, in the future, in the future. And you know what I'm trying to say? I hope that makes sense, but that's really deep because it shows that it's almost like if you got kicked and you already went through the pain and you healed and you're doing better, you wouldn't keep experiencing the same pain of that kick over and over if you already felt it and it already happened, right? You just accepted you got kicked, you moved past it. But unfortunately, with the other types of pains that we experience, we don't let it be accepted and observed and then think about, okay, so how do we move forward? So because we don't do that, we still think that the pain that we're feeling is from the moment of the now. But if you already in the past moment experienced almost exactly the same thing and you accepted it and you were focused on moving forward and growth and changing it, then you wouldn't continue to be in the pain. Again, it would almost free you. Let me know if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll try to explain it a different way. It took me a minute to even try to articulate what I was thinking. Okay. So he said, what you refer to as your life should more accurately be called your life situation. That's powerful too, right? Because we often will make this one season in our life applicable to our whole life. When in fact, we experience moments of ups, we experience moments of down. And by saying that we don't like our life right now, even though life goes through ups and downs and is temporary and is always ever changing, then you're making even the words that you use to describe it charge your feelings and make it seem even more painful or traumatic than what it has to be because the future could be different. Okay. Robert said you must take a new perspective into your future moment by moment. Yeah, you do. And if you don't, even though it feels like you're living in the present because you're not happy right now, you could not be happy. You could choose to accept it in the moment that just passed so that the next moment that comes up, you don't have to be unhappy anymore because you've already accepted it and are already thinking about growth and forward moving. Yes, Robert, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Okay, so when you refer to your life, you should more accurately be calling it your life situation because you might still have some life to live, right? We don't know that. It is psychological time. It's the past and the future. Certain things in the past didn't go the way that you wanted them to go. You are still resisting what happened in the past. Oh, he is saying what I'm saying. Oh, okay. He might say it better. So hold on. Okay. You are still resisting what has happened in the past, and now you are resisting what is. Hope is what keeps you going, but hope keeps you focused on the future. And this continued focus perpetuates your denial of the now, and it therefore perpetuates your unhappiness. Let me know if he might have said it better than I did. I didn't know he was going to say it that way, but we are pretty much saying the same thing. And so the person talking to him said, "It is true that my present life situation is the result of the things that happened in the past, but it is still my present situation, and being stuck in it is what makes me unhappy." So then he says this. He says, first of all, it's this life situation, not your life, right? So forget about your life situation for a while and pay attention to your life. What's the difference? For some of you, because you like to identify with the pain, with the past, with the things that you've been through, and because it's so much a part of your identity, it's hard to let it go. This could be a bit of an eye-opening thing for you to have to explore, but also traumatic. But I want you to do this, even if you do it after the live. Forget about your life situation for a while and just pay attention to your life. What is the difference? Your life situation exists in time, right? It either happened in the past, even if you were in it a moment ago, it still happened in the past. Your real life is now, right? Your life situation is mind stuff. Your life is real. Find the narrow gate that leads to life. It is called the now. Narrow your life down to this moment. Your life situation may be full of problems because most life situations are, but find out if you have any problem at this moment. Not tomorrow or in 10 minutes, but now. Do you have a problem now? When you are full of problems, there's no room for anything new to enter, no room for a solution. So, whenever you can, you need to make room in your life. You need to create space so that you find the life underneath your life situation. Let's see. Robert said life situation is just a portion of the total life journey. Exactly. And at this point, usually our life situation is based on memories or actions or things of the past, right? That you can't really do anything about because it's no longer real, or the future, which is not real either. She said, bam. um, so use your senses fully and learn to be where you are. Look around. Just look. Don't judge. Don't interpret. Learn to slow down. Learn to see light, shape, colors, textures. Be aware of that silent presence of each thing. Be aware of the space that allows everything to be. Just listen to the sounds and don't judge them. Listen to the silence underneath the sound. If you touch something, feel and acknowledge its being. Basically, he's telling you to slow down, be present, and move deeply into the now, especially if you are somebody that feels consumed or swallowed by your current life situations, and this is a little bit hard for you to pull yourself out of. If this is not easy for you to understand, if you continue to make your past situations something that is defining your current moments, and you make your life situations, hey Gemstone, and you make your total life situations your life, even though that's not your life, then what he's just basically saying is that a way for you to really truly live your life and not be a victim to your life circumstances is to always take as many moments throughout the day as possible to connect with the thing that is truly real, not only the now. I also teach clients to tap into their being as well, because to me, those two things together are what actually help you get more perspective in life and help you to transcend the labels and the past and the things that we've been through and all the things that we continue to let define how our future is going to go, instead of taking a more empowered stance in our life and actually shaping the way that our life is going to go in the future. Now, he says all problems are an illusion of the mind. So let's see what he has to say about that, because that could be triggering too. All right. So it feels as if a heavy burden has been lifted. That's what this other person talking to him said. A sense of lightness. This person feels clear, but the problems are still there waiting for me, aren't they? They haven't been solved. Am I not just temporarily evading him? And that makes sense. A lot of people would call that maybe like spiritual bypassing. Some people are going through some very real problems in life. And to say that if you were in the now, that those things would just fade away, could be a little bit too spiritual when there's a practical side to the human experience, right? So he says, if you found yourself in paradise, it wouldn't be long before your mind would say, yes, but. Ultimately, this is not about solving your problems. It's about realizing that there are no problems, only situations to be dealt with now, or to be left alone and accepted as part of the I don't know how to say the word that he's using, but just to accept them for the present moment until they can change or be dealt with. Problems are mind-made and need time to survive. They cannot survive in the now. Focus your attention on the now and tell me what problem you have in this moment. Okay, this could be a little bit deep, so let's just try to break this down into like what I think that he's saying. I think that for a lot of time, even though you can be struggling or going through hard times, a lot of it is due to the way that we perceive things. And for a lot of us, because we identify with these problems and we make them a bigger part of our lives than it has to be, and in the moment now, and we could be shaping the future, we don't. We choose to bring the past into these moments, or we bring the anxiety and the worry, which is future oriented, into these moments. We spend a lot of time in powerless situations when your true power is, like he said, focusing on the now and then dealing with things right now. And if you're not going to deal with something right now, then you have to leave it alone or accept it. And if you choose to leave something alone or accept it, then when the next moment now comes up, and that was the decision, then technically you should be free of it, because either you accept it, and if you leave it alone, then you need to learn how to detach, right? Or you solve it. And in any of those instances, you no longer have a problem because you've created a path about what it is that you want to do, right? I think he's going to break this down a little bit more, but that's just simplistically what I think that he's talking about. And I also feel like he may be saying on a more practical level, a lot of times we have been taught that we are very good at multitasking. And so what we end up doing is thinking that we can do all of the things. And what that really does is just pull you more out of the present. And so when you are trying to multitask, you really aren't able to optimally monitor your thoughts and use your mind as a tool, as well as your emotions, when you are multitasking. So there comes a certain point in your life where if you really want to be on point and be self-aware and be woke, you're going to have to learn how to pull yourself into the moment that is now. And if you are focusing on your breath, the trees, the wind, the energy around you, if you are focused on the subtleties of being, then you're not going to be able to, at the same time, think about life as if you have a situation or a problem that needs to be dealt with. If you don't understand this, another way you can look at it is in meditation. In meditation, you are observing your thoughts, right? Which means that you're already putting yourself in a more spiritual view of the world. But the second thing that you're doing is also coming back to your breath. A lot of meditation practices have you come back to the breath, because what that does, if you don't notice it from a self-awareness standpoint, is when you are focusing on your breath, you cannot focus on thoughts at the same time. You cannot think at the same time. You may think that you're doing it at the same time, but it really isn't. And so I think what he's also saying is that the more that you are present in the now, the less time you are able to be focus on what you believe to be your present circumstance or your present life situation. Because being in the now pulls your focus and awareness from out of what you perceive to be the now. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. He said, I'm not getting any answer because it is impossible to have a problem. Oh, he's saying the same thing. Me and him could just be homies and just teach this together. He said, I'm not getting any answer. Like when so he asked the question, focus your attention on the now and tell me what problem you have if you were in the now. And I just explained to you why, if you truly understood what the now is, why you wouldn't be able to focus on your problem at the same time as being in the now. And so he's saying, when I asked you that question to focus on the now and then tell me if you have a problem, I'm not getting any answer because it's impossible to have a problem when your attention is fully in the now. A situation that needs to either be dealt with or accepted, right? You either deal with it or you accept it. And so if you've dealt with it or you're dealing with it, I'll say also, why make it into a problem? And if you accept it, then you accept it. So why make it into a problem? Why make anything into a problem? Isn't life challenging enough as it is? What do you need problems for? The mind unconsciously loves problems because they give you an identity of sorts. It's normal and it's insane. A problem means that you are dwelling on a situation mentally without there being a true intention or a possibility of taking action now, and that you are unconsciously making it a part of your sense or self. I'm going to say that again because I stumble a little bit, and I'll say it in my own words. So whenever you're saying that you have a problem, it means that you haven't accepted it or you haven't decided to fix it, and you haven't started acting to fix it. Because if you accept it, true acceptance means that you accept it, it's not a problem. If you understand acceptance. And then if you are choosing to deal with it and act on it, then because you are acting, it's no longer a problem. There's something that is actively taking place for you to be able to move past it. So if you continue to say that you have a problem, it means that that should be your clue that you are mentally not either doing something about it or accepting it, or both, right? Or it could be both. And so you also need to take that as a clue that you are making your life situations your identity, and it doesn't have to be a part of your identity, because once you do that, you set yourself up for other problems that you have to transcend in order to change your life and start to move in the direction that you want to. So you become so overwhelmed by your life situation, not your life, because you might still have a lot of life to live, right? But your life situation, that you lose the sense of life, the sense of being, that sense of being that we talked about in chapter 1. Or you are carrying in your mind the insane burden of 100 things that you will or may have to do in the future, instead of focusing your attention on the one thing that you can do now. When you create a problem, you create pain. All it takes is a simple choice, a simple decision. No matter what happens, decide that you will not create more pain for yourself. Decide that you will not create more problems for yourself. Although this seems simple, he says, it's very radical. And a lot of people, you included, some of you that may not be living the life that you want, he said that you won't make this choice to stop creating pain and problems for yourself unless you are truly fed up with suffering, and unless you have truly had enough. And you won't be able to go through with it unless you access the power of the now. If you create no more pain for yourself, then you create no more pain for others. You also no longer contaminate the beautiful earth, your inner space, and the collective human psyche with the negativity of problem making. All right, we'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or anything? This is super deep. And for a lot of you, this may be something that you'll have to listen to over and over again, because again, I think that There's a lot of resistance to the fact to when people hear that a lot of the reason why you are experiencing pain and suffering in the now is because you made these things a part of your identity. You either haven't accepted them or dealt with them. And so they continue to perpetuate in your life. Or you may be that person that's so far into the future and bringing the future into the now that you have the worry or anxiety. And so all of these things are holding you back. And so you continue to create problems and situations and circumstances instead of freeing yourself and allowing yourself to live a better life now. And it's a choice. And you may not want to hear that either. You want to hold on to this because it gives you, and it could protect you, right? It could protect you from having to do the steps that you need to do to make a better life. All the labels, all the things that we do. I'm like this. I grew up this way. This is how my mind works. This is my label. We pull all of these things to help give us an excuse so that we don't either have to accept what it is that's going on right now and either do something about it or not, and to stop making these things a part of our identity. So let's see. Rob Brett said multitasking is overrated. It totally is. We can do it if we have to, but I think that for the most part in life, you're going to see that a lot of successful people that especially are creative, because I think creativity is the part that makes people successful. And I don't mean creativity like art. I mean creativity like you're able to use your brain as a tool to then look at things in different ways, different angles, and then take your intelligence and meld with it and to really look at life a different way, which creates more opportunity for you. And I think if you study truly creative people, they don't spend a lot of time multitasking. There's a lot of focused work. There's a lot of work about being in a zone. There's a lot of work happening in that space of the now. And I feel like when you're in that space of the now, you also are connected with the power of God. And that's where you can start to get a lot of powerful things done in your life without having to rely on your own self, especially if you are someone that has trouble transcending your thoughts and emotions and letting them get the best of you. So simplification, my life is super simple. Jim Stone said it really is, Robert, because one thing is left untended to as much as it should be. You said I'm moving ahead of him. Yeah. Is this all the stuff they should have taught in school? I don't think so. So I got a radical view. We will be almost over time, but I'm going to tell you the short thing. I believe that because society has told us to experience life with our five senses, not school, just society in general, I think that we miss out on a lot of the other information that's available to us, like the energy and the frequency and all that other things, our intuition. But I feel like that's not school's problem. Unfortunately, it's a humanity problem because most people don't want to break the cycle of thinking in that way to provide the next generation with a more holistic experience. And I feel like that if somebody has decided that they want to bring another life into the world, I feel like that's a big responsibility and a big choice. And I think that the number one thing that you can do for that person, that human, is take responsibility over making them the best human they could be. And that means holistically. And so, yeah, maybe school doesn't teach it, but they don't have to teach it. I think that as a parent, you have to decide what kind of experience you want to give your children. And we often think about it in terms of, well, college and, toys and food and clothing, but we don't often want to be a better person ourselves holistically so that we can pass on to our children what truly matters. I just don't think that people give much thought into parenting before they become parents. And if they do, it's in that census type of way that we've all kind of perpetuated generation to generation, this huge paradigm. And it's actually one of the reasons why I don't have children. I think it's a huge responsibility if you want to do it the right way. It takes a lot of transcending, a lot of healing, a lot of being the best person that you can be, so that you can be an example and a role model for that little one that is taking from you, especially at those formidable years where they're in those theta waves and they're super impressionable. If you haven't learned this for yourself, because remember, we take responsibility for our own growth, then I think that that's a problem. I don't think school should have to teach this. I think that the true responsibility to impart information onto your child is through the parents. I think that the school is there to teach basic information like math and all the stupid stuff that they teach you anyway. You said it wears you out multitasking. Yeah, it wears you out. All right. So I didn't mean to talk about parenting, but that's just a short view of how I feel about school. I think school is basic. I think school can be way shorter. Stop keeping those kids in class all day. Just teach them the basics of math, writing, arithmetic, whatever it is. And then when it comes to being good people, because most people aren't living life like this, then I think that that is what, as a parent, you have to figure out. And again, there's just a level of ignorance, and I don't mean ignorance like stupid. I mean a lot of people just don't know this stuff, and so it's a hard thing to say people should do for their children. However, I think that to optimally raise human beings that are holistically good people, then that's the parents' responsibility. All right, lastly, before we let each other go, on the 26th, there's a Learning to Protect Your Energy class. So for those of you that are letting other people's energy impact you negatively, or you're in certain situations and you pick up this negative energy, then you may want to think about coming to that class, because I'll teach you to learn to protect your energy. And I'll also teach you how to impart boundaries so you don't pick up that negativity. It's a totally free class. If you want to learn more, you can either DM me or you can text the word mastery to the following phone number. The phone number is 833-231-4407. Again, you text the word mastery to 833-231-4407. You will get a link to your phone to sign up for the free class. Jimstone says school leaves out how to live beyond the basics. Exactly. So that's why I wouldn't want that taught in school. And everybody's not going to have the same viewpoint about what their kids should know. So I think that the school is supposed to just teach the basics. That's just my opinion. And I think that the parents are the ones that are supposed to be holistically teaching their children to go out and be adults. I don't think school needs to teach kids to be adults. I think school needs to educate, and educate has to do with learning to use your mind in a linear fashion when it comes to the certain things that we need to learn, like the math and stuff, right? But I think that outside of that, parents are supposed to teach the kids to live beyond the basics. And that may be triggering. A lot of people may not agree with me, especially because I don't have children. But the reason why I don't have children is because, to me, I think it's a huge responsibility that I'm not going to give to the school. I'm not going to give to society. I'm not going to give to all of these different people when I have said that I would bring this human being into this world. And so that means that I need to be the one to give them what they need to be the best adult possible. So I'm not going to let anybody else be in charge of that, because like you said, they don't do it right. They may not do it right. So it's not anybody else's. They don't need to teach you how to live beyond the basics, because to me, that's part of parenting. That's just how I feel about that. All right. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. I will talk to you later. Bye.